Hello, John Dalton here, Further Emergence Podcast. This week we have questions about the multiverse and the flow state. But before we get into them, let's have a quick review of the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first one, I wrote this one. And it's a picture of a big hay bale. We don't really have hay stacks anymore. It's like one of those big circular things, with the I don't even know the machine that makes them, but it's a big circular ball of hay, cylinder of hay. It's definitely not romantic like a haystack. Anyway, it's like a modern haystack. And there's a huge needle like sticking into it. And you'd have to see the photograph really, and if you're looking on the YouTube channel, you will see it. But it's it's like too big, and it's kind of like a joke on this, like finding a needle in a haystack. So what I wrote about that was, or what came up in me when I saw that was, sometimes looking inside can feel overwhelming, impossible, like looking for a needle in a haystack. Sometimes the willingness to look is all you need. The resistance creates the difficulty and amplifies it. The willingness to look, to face whatever you might find, discharges the resistance and allows you to see things in perspective. It's not always pretty, but it's full of life. And I think that's brilliant, even though I wrote it. But it's not so much that what I wrote is the essence of it. It's kind of like what I was saying last week about the only way out is through. It's like sometimes the unwillingness to actually look inside can make the thing that you're trying to avoid looking at amplify and become bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes all it takes is just a willingness to look. And then you discover, oh, that wasn't so bad after all. There wasn't so much darkness in there. There wasn't so much scary stuff in there. But I've been kind of running away from it on the inside for a long time. So, yes, I like that one. I like it a lot. The next one was a video of me in this little meditation nook that I found. I can see it from the house, and it's kind of looks like a cave. From down here, it looks like a cave. So I thought I'd found it, and I thought it wasn't a cave, and I thought it was a shadow. And then about a month ago, for no reason, I just went, you know what? I think I'm going to have look a little bit further. I think I'm going to, persevere with that a little bit more. And I went a bit further along, and I actually found it. And it's not a cave, which was slightly disappointing, but it does look like it's more of an alcove. And it's strange because I just automatically wanted to stand in this alcove. And then as soon as I stood in it, I wanted to kind of meditate. And there were steps up to it. So I don't know. Somebody maybe put them there. Somebody maybe had the same idea as me. So I felt a little bit like 7 of 9 from Voyager in my little alcove meditating. But it was kind of nice. I kind of liked it. So I made this little video of being up there and what I can see from my little meditation nook. And it went well. People responded to it. I think when people see where I live, I mean, you can see it behind me now if you're looking on YouTube. Where I live is so beautiful. I'm so grateful to live where I live. And it's so spectacularly beautiful that pretty much point a camera anywhere and it just looks great. So that was that little video. Then the next one was, I didn't write this, but it's beautiful. It says, to be kind is more important than to be right. Many times what people need is not a brilliant mind that speaks, but a special heart that listens. That's lovely, isn't it? And every time I post that meme, people just really respond. They just really... it's like their heart kind of opens up when they see it. There's something about it. And it's that thing of like being kind is more important than than being right. That is so true. Everybody gets it. But the hardest time to get it is when you're in the middle of a fight. When you're in the middle of a fight and you have a great point and you're going to win the argument, but then you realize that you're going to win the argument by unkindness. It's very hard to turn it around. It's very hard to stop it. When people talk about the speed of consciousness, that's what I think of as the speed of consciousness, that you can be fast enough in your consciousness to get ahead of it and go, you know what, I'm not being true to my sweet, lovely inner nature here. This is not kind, even though I'm going to win the argument. And part of it will be like, don't say it. Don't stop. Don't give in. Don't be kind. Win the argument. Let's go for the jugular. They're down. We just got to say this one thing and then we'll win the argument. And then you go, no. And if you can say it, and it's very hard to say it, like, I was going to say something there, but, or that thing I just said, yeah, I didn't mean that. That's not true. Sorry about that. Or, yeah, okay, you're right. Or just say nothing. It can be very hard. If you know, that's not to say you should always say nothing. Sometimes saying something is the kind thing to do, and it can be very difficult to do. Okay, the next one is big writing. Everyone is just winging it. Something so refreshing about that. I didn't write this, but when I came across it, it was like, it's the sort of thing that makes the shoulders drop and go, oh yeah, right. And because it sort of speaks to this illusion that it's so easy to have without even knowing how you have it, that people know what they're doing, that, you know, people are, you know, that there is a kind of normal, in inverted commas, that there is a, you know, that some people are surer, is that a word? More sure than I am. And generally they're not. I mean, some people are in what they do, meaning pilots, for example. You want them to be, you know, not winging it. Definitely. You don't want them to be winging it, and that's not a pun, but, you know, you want them to know what they're doing. But it's more to do with in their life, you know, like that film, that one with Denzel Washington, that's a great example of, you know, like pilots. He had a drug problem, he had a sex problem, he had an alcohol problem, but when he got into the plane, he was pretty good. Not brilliant, but pretty good. But in his life, not so good. So it's not, it's more in that kind of thing. It's like, you know, this idea that other people have got their act together and you're the only one who hasn't. That's the bit that's not true. Everyone on those terms, everyone is winging it. Nobody's got it together in the way they'd like to feel like they have it together. Everyone's got something that they're working out, that they're dealing with. And kind of knowing that helps. Okay, so that's the memes. Farm news, not a huge amount in farm news for you this week. Just ongoing stuff. The roof is still off the pump house. The roof on the house with the leak, nothing's really moved forward on that. I've had to move my whole one-to-one where I do the one-to-one work. I've had to move that to another room because, yeah, there was definitely some kind of mold in that room because I could feel it in my lungs. I could just feel better in it. So, yeah, other than that, we've just been lashed by the wind and the rain. Weather's just been really intense here. High winds, lots of rain, no fun. So, not much to say about that. I haven't been able to get out much. Like that day I was able to go up to my nook. I think that was the only day I was able to get out and do anything. Luckily, I work from home. Okay, so I've got a question from Alyssa in Australia. She says, "Hi, John. I'm really enjoying your Further Emergence podcasts again. I'm revisiting some old ones and ingesting the new ones. You're always very encouraging about getting in touch with you and giving you feedback, and I'm grateful for that. It's like having a friend at the end of the line. You're welcome, Alyssa. What's intriguing me lately is I'm fascinated by this idea of flow, and how for some people who seem to be immersed in the flow, life unfolds for them with what seems like great ease. And for others, life seems like a great slog, slog, slog. I suspect it's all about one's own reactions, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm putting it out there in case a wonderful podcast emerges from such a fantastic topic. Thank you. All the best, Alyssa. Okay, thank you. Well, there's kind of two things there. There's one like flow, meaning flow state, the state of flow, and the other is to be in the flow. And I don't have any definitive thing on any of those, because flow state, I'll talk about flow state first. Flow state it's that thing where you get lost in whatever you're doing. So if you're playing tennis and then suddenly, you get into a volley, I don't play tennis, a volley, and, time stops, or time stands still, or, or time, the 10 minutes go by and you don't even notice it. Or you're cycling, or you're painting, or you're playing music. You just become lost in what you're doing. And it's lovely. It's a beautiful feeling. And a lot of people who are into flow state will say, oh, that's how I meditate. I get into the flow state and that's my meditation. No, not in my experience, or not meditation as I understand meditation. I'm not making them wrong or anything, but just in terms of meditation, because I know what it's like to be in flow state. I know what it's like to meditate, and they're not the same thing. Flow state's a beautiful thing. It's wonderful. And there are ways that you can organize your life to get you into flow state. And it's great. But it's different to meditation, because in meditation, I'm very consciously dealing with my mind and continually bringing my mind back to the mystery by turning off the pictures, turning off the sound, turning off the pictures and internal sound, continually bringing myself back to the mystery, back to not thinking, and dealing with all the difficulties that my mind has with that, which is very different to being in flow state. So being in flow state is beautiful, but when people talk about being in the flow, that's a different thing. Because it's kind of, it's like that cliched kind of thing of like, go with the flow, man. And, there's two ways of looking at it, and both are right, which is kind of standard for the spiritual life in my experience. Is like everything is paradox, or there's a lot of paradox. Or probably a better way of thinking about it in terms of paradox is it's not so much a paradox, is that it's been able to hold two opposing perspectives on the same thing and not land on one or the other, to be okay with both. So one side, it's like go with the flow. There's a great story I heard Osho telling, or maybe I read it. I think I read it in one of his books. Osho is who Sri Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh was before he changed his name to Osho. And he, there's a great documentary all about Osho's. It's not so much about Osho's and his teachings, but just the community / cult that built up around him. And it's called Wild Country or something like that. It's on Netflix. It's very good. Anyway, in this story, Osho was talking about when he was a kid, there used to be a river near where he lived, and the kids used to go and play in the river. Now, that sounds like, Huckleberry Finn or something like that, but from his description, this was a river that was in raging flood most of the time, and it had big, huge ups and downs in the water, and it was super dangerous, and kids got killed in this river playing in it. And he he was saying like he never had any trouble in the river because he would just throw himself in the river and surrender to the river, and it would take him up and it would take him down, and and then at some point way down the river he would just get out. So he never had any problem. And his kind of thing was like when you completely relax into the flow of life, which, the river was like a metaphor for that, then you don't have any problems, which is lovely. But, when you see how Osho's life went, it didn't exactly go like that for him because he ran into all sorts of troubles towards the end of his life. And died under kind of mysterious circumstances. And certainly when you watch the Wild Wild Country documentary, the community that was around him, there was a lot of disturbance in that. So, like all these stories and like all gurus and teachers, and that's why I regularly say like the time of the guru is over, the time of the spiritual teacher is over, the time of the spiritual master is over, is because we're like there's in my experience of being around spiritual teachers and just anybody who's exceptional, is that it's very easy to get distracted by the amount of truth that is coming through the person and overlook the person's blind spots or their bit of unconsciousness. I always kind of think of it, it's like 90% truth and 10% their unconsciousness, and it's the 10% unconsciousness that bites you. Not that they're trying to consciously do anything to you, but I know I was the sort of person that I would just be like, wow, the 90%, it's so beautiful, and overlook and almost go, it's 100%, and it's never 100%. So, what happened in Osho's life, to me, it's like just, well, that's his 10%, that's the human bit, the bit of unconscious like we all have. So being with the flow, it's a great story, and I'm sure it's true. I don't know, I wasn't there, but it sounds true, and I like the idea of it being in the flow, relaxing, because like another version of that, another phrase I like is this idea of let go or be dragged. That conjures up a great mental image of like surrender or be dragged, because either way it's happening. Life is the big movement of life is going to pull you one way or the other. So you can either let go and enjoy the ride, or you can be dragging along the ground with your, with your nails raking the ground as you resist. So that's one side. Then on the other side, you have, like Barry Long used to have this great phrase of, the only people that go with the flow are dead fish. Which is such a Barry Long thing to say. But where he's coming from was that the flow of, I think he's more talking about the flow of unconsciousness, really. Like if you just accept everything you're told, if you just go along with everybody else, you'll be going with the flow. You'll be going with the least amount of resistance. But in order to get anywhere spiritually, you have to swim against the tide. You have to, be like a salmon going upstream. You have to push against a lot of resistance. And that's another perspective. I don't, for myself, I don't feel like I'm pushing against anything, because for me, those two streams kind of come together inside me, in that, I've said before, like I don't have any willpower about anything really. And yet I do, I do things that look like, I have a lot of willpower, but I know on the inside I don't, because it just comes up inside me to do something, and then I will just do it. And even regardless of how difficult it might be, but it's kind of easy to do it because it's coming up from the inside. But if it's not coming up from the inside and it's just an idea I have, like, oh, I should do this thing, then it's difficult, then it's hard. So my spiritual life is driven by that inner force, inner knowing. So that makes me go against the stream a lot. But I don't feel like I'm, swimming against the stream. I've got to push, got to do anything like that. I don't feel that at all. And that movement from the inside, in a way, is me being a bit like Osho on the river, of going with the flow. But the flow is inside and it's coming from inside me. And I'm surrendering that. So surrendering to that. So that can be, it can be external, like, okay, I think that's enough coffee. That's enough caffeine. That'll come up inside me and I'll just go, oh, okay. And I'll just stop at caffeine, which I did that, a long time ago. Same with alcohol, same with cigarettes, same with anything like that, And, or, something that I have, I don't have it anymore. So, and I go, so rather than like, oh, I don't have that thing anymore, I want to, or that person, or, somebody dies or something like that. Like, I will just surrender to that as well. Like, this is the new situation. This is the new situation I'm in. So, yeah, I didn't realize till I was just saying that they're not that opposing inside me. It's like both together. It's like, looked at one way, I am kind of going against the stream, but another way, I'm quite surrendered. So, yeah, but they're separate. The flow state and being in flow of life, and that idea of other people having it easy and other people having it slog. I've found it's just not really conducive to being happy to look at other people and to compare, because you really never know what's going on for other people, and it can look like it's easy for people, but you don't know what it's like in there. You don't know what they're dealing with, so I wouldn't. And then another question from Macarena Asensio in Barcelona. Macarena says, I'd like to hear about the multiverse. Did you experience it in your inner space? Also, we talked about manifestation in the last retreat, and I was thinking about that maybe it works differently for different people. I've found that I'm a bit like Winnie the Pooh. I'm often distracted with something else, in brackets, something nice, and manifestation shows up like a surprise gift from life. But most people refer to manifestation like it's something that responds to a more specific desire, isn't it? Okay, so there's kind of two things there, multiverse and manifestation, and they do kind of cross over. The idea of the multiverse is that there are many parallel universes all existing at the same time as now, and that there are multiple versions of you living in those multiple universes all at the same time, and that you are having multiple lives all at the same time, but you're only just aware of this one, and that each life is slightly different, So I kind of think of them like I'm in my life, linear life, buying into the linear model of time here, sitting in my life like it's like a train and I'm on a particular track, and I look out the window to my left and there's me, another me in another train and the track next to mine, and I'm very similar, but there are just some slight differences. And so that life is happening, and then I look to the other side and I'm also in another train next to it, so that's three of us now, me in the middle, one on each side. The one on the other side is the same, slightly different, and then there's two more on the other side of that, so that's five, and the ones on the outside are more and more different, and then on and on and on, so that many trains and tracks away from me, there's a version of me that's very different to the where I am now. And like one extreme, like say at one end I'm a billionaire, and at the other end I'm like homeless or incredible poverty or whatever, or say at one end I'm a nuclear physicist, and at the other end I am a despot, and so on. Now, how that crosses over into manifestation is that one of the techniques in manifestation is called quantum jumping. And the idea with quantum jumping is that, let's say I'm in my little life here, and let's say I want to become an Olympic class gymnast. Again, this is just popping into my head, right? So I start from the position that there is a version of me that already is an Olympic gymnast, that already is fantastic at gymnastics. So I am going to summon that version of me to this version of me, and I'm going to have the abilities that gymnast version of me has. So it's almost like you can think of it like trying on a coat that is made of the version of me that is already the Olympic gymnast. Or in my little train analogy, it's like I managed to bring that version of me onto my track so that I become that version of me. So that could be, there's a very wealthy version of me. I'm just going to bring that version to this reality that I'm in. There's a super fit version of me. There's a super confident version of me. There's a super whatever you want. I mean, it's lovely. I really like that kind of thing because it's a lovely way of thinking about things. Of like, number one, it makes you unlimited and completely free on the inside. You can be whatever you want to be because you're coming from the position that it already exists. It's already there. I just have to bring it to me. So it's a nice idea. Personally, I've done it a little bit, and yes, to a degree, I found it very freeing on the inside to think like that. But I haven't seen big changes on the outside. But then I think with all, like my experience of manifestation, and I've been very focused on manifestation for the last year, because I sort of feel like it's important to master it. And like manifestation is usually associated with money. And yeah, money's a good place to start, but I think there's more to it than that. Like if you can figure out manifestation, then you can help to change bigger things in the world than just your own bank balance. But maybe it starts with your bank balance. I'm not sure. I'm still looking at it. And yes, it can, like as I say, I've been looking at it quite a bit, and there is like when you're talking about Winnie the Pooh and getting distracted, often that can be helpful. Like there's a technique called a knot technique, which is another example of that. So like there's one school of thought in manifestation that's like, let's say you want to manifest $1 million, that you generally have to talk about it as if it's already happened. That's a kind of standard thing in manifestation. So there's one kind of way of doing it where you're like, I have manifested $1 million. There's another school that says you go, I have not manifested $1 million. The knot technique. And the idea is that you can try this. I haven't tried this, but you can have a go at this if you want. Who is it? Neville Goddard. One of his things was he used to say at his meetings, if you want to know if what I'm saying is true or not, do this. Write down, I will not climb a ladder. Okay? And write it on a few different places, leave it around your house, and make sure and say to yourself regularly through the day, I will not climb a ladder. I will definitely not climb a ladder. And he'd say, do that for a week. And if at the end of the week you haven't climbed a ladder, then what I have to say is not really for you. But if at the end of the week, after you've repeatedly said, I will not climb a ladder, you have found yourself climbing a ladder, then come back and we'll go into it more. And it's quite funny listening to testimonials from people who have tried this out and are like, I'd forgotten about it. And then I went to visit my father and he was up on the roof and he said, can you hand me that hammer? And I was halfway up the ladder, I had to hand him the hammer. I was like, God damn it, I'm climbing a ladder. So that's the knot technique. But I think the essence of the knot technique is that it takes the focus off. Because I know when I'm working with people, whether that's in person, which I don't do anymore, or remotely, particularly if they've got a big health issue, because I've got a big heart, and like most people who work with people everyone's got a big heart, really, don't they? You kind of want the best for them, and if they're in pain, you don't want them to be in pain. But I've found that gets in the way. So I've found that my wanting something for them, I found that the most helpful thing I can do with the people that I work with is to forget about them during the time between when I would see them. And that's like I've seen that in my experience, that when I don't focus and don't kind of go, oh, I hope they get better, I hope they're not so much in pain, I hope whatever, that actually stalls the process because it's too much focus. Whereas when we work together, I do what I do, they do what they do, and then when we're finished, I just put them out of my mind. I found that that's the most helpful. So I think that's a version of the knot technique, what you're saying about Winnie the Pooh, and getting distracted and not so focused on it. That comes into it. But like anything, there's lots of different people with lots of different ideas and perspectives on manifestation. And some of them are like, this is what you've got to do, and you do this, and you do that, and you do this other thing, which always kind of looks to me like that success trap thing that I've talked about before, which is, that if I'm like I say, I've been focused on manifestation. Like when I figure it out, there's always a big space to kind of feel like, oh, now I know how it works. And now I can tell everyone else how it works, and it'll work for them. And maybe I should write a book about it. Maybe I should start giving seminars about it. And then when I give the seminars and I tell people, and if they don't get it right, then there's something wrong with them because, I know how I did it, which is not the case because everyone's so different. And what works for one person may not work for another person. And really all anyone can ever say is, well, this is what I do and this is what worked for me. So it's a broad kind of field. There are general kind of rules, as I said, in manifestation, but yeah, some people it's very specific, other people it's not. But if you're finding that the Winnie the Pooh approach is working for you, brilliant. Keep going with that, But then, and just like with everybody, it's different for everybody. It can be different for you, certainly in this. Like, as I say, in this last year, I've been very focused on manifestation, and things work for a little while for me, and then they don't. And then another thing will work for me, and then it won't. And, and it's part of that kind of process of going deeper and deeper and deeper into it and into myself to do with it, I think. All right. That's all I have for you today. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.